Hi, my name is Dr. Felucia. I'm a licensed psychologist. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about some common gaslighting phrases and how to respond to them in the moment. Now, if you haven't already, what I would encourage you to do so that you have a basic understanding of gaslighting is go into my channel and there's a playlist called gaslighting. And in that playlist, you'll see some videos about gaslighting, specifically what gaslighting is, and also how to just conceptualize it from a broader level and some techniques you can do to deal with gaslighting in general. This video is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to be reviewing specific gaslighting phrases and how to respond to them. Okay. And this is just a few of them. In the future, I'll be doing more videos about other types of phrases that are gaslighting phrases and how to respond to them. Okay, so what is gaslighting? This will just be a brief description of it, but gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation, right? And it is used, it's a common tool that's used in all sorts of abuse. So I talk a lot about spiritual abuse on my channel, but gaslighting is not only found in spiritually abusive situations. When there's emotional abuse, narcissistic abuse, physical abuse, any type of abuse, you will find this common thread of gaslighting. And what it is, basically, it is used by the perpetrator, the one who is, leveraging the gaslighting. They're trying to get you as the person on the receiving end to doubt your reality, to sow seeds of doubt and confusion. And not only to, gaslighting is designed to not only make you doubt what you're seeing in front of you, but also doubt your own capacity to reason normally and reason logically. They say gaslighting is crazy making behavior, and they don't say that, flippantly or for no reason. It's true that when people have been through gaslighting, they feel like they are going crazy, to use lack of a better term, right? They feel like they cannot reason properly, that they're not, goodness, I just saw this thing happen right in front of me, but yet I'm being told that this thing didn't happen, right? And so gaslighting causes you to doubt your own reality and your own ability to reason normally. Okay, and so this is basically what gaslighting is. And so I'm going to talk about some phrases that you will hear during gaslighting. One phrase you'll hear is you're overthinking this, right? So maybe there's a situation where there's a conflict and you bring up something and then you're just told, well, you're overthinking this. Another gaslighting phrase is you're reading way too much into this, right? That's another one. I've some other ones that I have, been told about or have heard myself, or, nobody thinks this way, or no normal person thinks this way, right? Another one, you're being too sensitive, right? And there's a common theme amongst these phrases. And these phrases are meant to cause you to doubt your capacity to reason normally, right? If someone's telling you, well, you're too sensitive, you're overthinking this, nobody thinks that way, then you start to think, oh my goodness, like what's wrong with me? Why am I too sensitive? Or why can't I reason through this like a normal person, right? And another thing I want you to think about with gaslighting is it is a, manipulative people use this as a way of deflecting accountability, right? And so if you're bringing up an issue, instead of addressing the issue at hand, you'll hear gaslighting as it's used as like a red herring or a sleight of hand. It's caused to make you distract you rather from the focus of the issue at hand. Okay. So there are different ways in which you can respond to gaslighting. And I have a video that covers this in general. It's called the Jade Method of Responding to Gaslighting. So I would encourage you to watch that. And also, if you are finding this content helpful, please take a moment to like the video, share the video, and also comment. And if you have not subscribed already, please do so. What this does is it helps get information like this out to other people that could benefit from it. So if you haven't done so already, please take a moment to do that. I would really appreciate that. Okay, so I mentioned the JADE method, and the premise of that is not doing four things. The first one, J, stands for justify. Second, argue. That's A. D, defend, or E, explain, right? And so what happens when you see a dynamic happening with gaslighting, the person who is doing the gaslighting is kind of setting off a chain reaction. So the person on the receiving end is doing all of this stuff to basically assert that, no, I'm not crazy, I can think normally, this and this. And so what that does when you are in this jade state of mind, you are not starting from a position of strength. And so it's really important that you don't do this. And part of the reason why this is not advisable either is that it reinforces a power differential, or it can create one. And so when you're the one scrambling around to justify, well, I just said it this way, or I didn't mean this, or whatever, and and arguing and defending and explaining, you're using all this energy, and you are basically kind of positioning yourself as the one who is weaker, right, and unsure and insecure. And that is the furthest thing you want to be, or you want to present yourself to be in a dialogue with an abusive or a manipulative person, right? Another thing to remember is that people who use gaslighting are manipulative, and part of the reason that they use this manipulation is out of cowardice, right? They don't have the courage to call a thing, right, or to address the issue at hand. And a lot of people who use gaslighting behavior have some narcissistic traits and tendencies to them. While this is not necessarily a video on narcissism, a lot of people that have been through different types of spiritual abuse or other types of abuse that I talk about on my channel have dealt with people who have narcissistic tendencies. Okay, and so with people who are narcissistic like that, whether they have the clinical diagnosis or they have narcissistic traits, is that they have a very difficult time being called out on anything, right? And it doesn't mean just you calling them out. It could be just evidence that's right in front of them that shows that it reveals an insecurity or a weakness or something that they have going on with themselves. And so when that happens, they won't address it. And so they're just going to use gaslighting as a way of deflecting from whatever the real issue is. So it's really important to understand the type of person that you are up against when you are dealing with gaslighting behavior. Okay, so how to respond. There are a few ways to respond, and I will give some specific examples, but I want you to remember that when you are in the space of being gaslit, it's not just affecting your mind, it's also affecting your body, right? And so if you're feeling like a heightened sense of like panic or arousal or disorientation, you may resort to things that won't help. You may have difficulty like even constructing a response. And so I want you to remember two things. The first thing is, number one, always start from a position of strength. That is really important. It's critical, right? Because if there's a power differential or if someone is trying to create one, you don't want to start out as the weaker person. And I'm not saying this in a way where you are trying to railroad someone or like mow over them or be a bully. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being assertive. When we have healthy relationships, you see you and the other person, or you and that group in the environment, you see one another as having equal value, right? And there may be, some hierarchies, especially like when it comes to like, organizations and leadership, but inherently you both have the same value. When people gaslight you, they want you to feel like you are inherently less valuable. So start from a position of strength. And then the second one is be silent if necessary. You know, the last thing that you want to do with somebody who engages in this type of toxic behavior is to get in a back and forth with them and get in an argument. All that does is that, that they're taking that information, that energy in those arguments, and just using it against you to just keep that argument going. You know, the more they have you in an argument and having you try to convince them and convince yourself that you are a reasonable person, or when you're in that convincing space, rather, it's still deflecting from the issue. Okay, so number one, start from a position of strength. And then number two, you know, be silent if you need to, even if it's just being quiet to just gather your thoughts, or not even responding. I think that's a much better way of handling it than going back and forth with somebody who does not have any desire to be reasonable with you. Okay, so let's go back to some of the phrases. Let's say somebody tells you like, oh, well, you know, you're just overthinking this. You can respond by saying, you know, no, I'm not overthinking things. This is how I see things, right? And you just want to be, assertive. You want to say what you need to say calmly, say it slowly, but don't repeat it. And so even with your body posture, you know, start with your shoulders back, right? If you say something and your shoulders are back and you look at them directly and you speak in a clear voice, even just that body language shows that you are being confident, right? And so when I say start from a position of strength, I mean that physically, and I also mean that psychologically. Okay, so that's one thing you can do. Someone says you're overthinking it. Well, you know, I'm not overthinking it. This is how I see things, right? Straight to the point. And then just leave it at that. If they're going to argue, say, yes, you are overthinking things, blah, blah, blah. It's really important that you don't repeat yourself or get into that arguing space with them. Okay. Let's say somebody tells you something like, you know, let's see, nobody thinks this way, right? Or nobody normal would think this way, or just saying something derogatory about the way you think about things. You can simply say something like, well, I happen to think that way, and there's nothing wrong with me or my thought process around this, right? So you're just stating a fact, right? There's this how I happen to see things. There's nothing wrong with me. The less you can say, even the better, right? So I would even do one better than that. And if they say, well, nobody normal thinks this way, nobody thinks this way. Well, I think that way. This is how I think. This is how I see the situation, and leave it at that. Another one that I hear, you know, in my work quite frequently is people being told that they are too sensitive, right? You're oversensitive, you're too sensitive, you're too touchy. And the way you can respond to that is you can simply say something like, you know, well, that's your opinion. This issue is really important to me, right? And so you just state that it's important, and even thinking too about a value that you may have. So whether it's you know, something like honesty, like this is really important to me. I value honesty in interpersonal interactions or in relationships. And so state whatever it is that's important to you and attach that value to it. Okay. So those are some things that you can do in response to those phrases. Okay. And in addition to the examples I gave, it's really also very important that you always are starting from a position of strength. You want to be physically strong. You know, that means, like I said, shoulders back, head high, speak in a calm but clear tone, and maintain eye contact. And then sometimes it's best just to remain silent. I mean, you can just say nothing, you know, and let your silence speak for you. Silence is also a type of response. All right. So I hope this information helps you. If you would like to book a free consultation, go to my website, skillsetcounseling.com, and click the button that says book a free consultation. You can also go in the description box, and there is a link there that you can click to book your consultation. And I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. You know, I gave some tips about how to respond, but I would love to hear from you all. Like, have you been in situations like this? How did you respond, and what would you recommend to others? All right. So I'm looking forward to reading the comments on this one, and I will, make another video on similar topics. So stay tuned for those as well. So I hope you have a wonderful day that's filled with peace. Bye-bye.